I don't know about everyone else, but I've always had terrible vision. Generally, it gets worse from year to year, but there are some years I'm able to skip the decay. I wear contact lenses because I've tried to avoid the nerd stigma my whole life. I'm not entirely sure the contacts help though, but I prefer them regardless. This year my vision had definitely gotten worse. I could tell just by trying to read the words from afar. I was almost out of contact lenses as well, so it was time to go see my optometrist. The visit went about as usual, doing a bunch of vision tests, getting bright lights shined in my eyes, and trying to guess what letter the big blur was once he asked me to take out my contacts. As suspected, my vision had indeed gotten worse. When I asked my doctor about ordering new contacts, he offered me a strange proposal. This may seem weird, but I just received a new shipment of contacts today. This new company sent me an experimental set of contacts. To be blunt, I'm looking for a guinea pig to try them out on. That was a bit weird. New contacts? Do they match my prescription? I asked, a bit confused. That's the thing. Apparently, these contacts auto-adjust to the person wearing them. I have no clue how it works, but if it does, it would be an incredible stride for optometry. Your new contacts will take a few days to get here anyway, but if these work, you could be back to perfect vision today, the doctor replied. I didn't like the idea of being a guinea pig, especially after all the TV and movies I've watched where experiments don't end quite well. On the other hand, this sounded incredible. Contacts that automatically adjust to your eyes? I was just curious to see if such a thing existed. In the end, curiosity won out. I'll try them, I said. My optometrist quickly left the room with a grin and returned a few minutes later with a small box in one hand and a piece of paper in the other, which I quickly learned what the paper was for. I'm going to need you to sign this waiver. Like I said, they are experimental. Well, it looks like I won't be getting a big payday if something goes wrong, I thought as I signed the waiver. After getting that out of the way, the doctor set the box in front of me. New Life Vision, it read. Helping you see a new outlook on life. What a cheesy slogan, I thought, as I restrained myself from laughing out loud. I opened the small box and pulled out the even smaller containers from within. If you've ever worn contacts before, you know what these containers look like. I was easily able to put both contacts in within a span of 30 seconds. At first, it seemed like they didn't work. My vision was as blurry as it always is without contacts. After blinking a few times, however, they started to become clearer. Another few seconds passed and I blinked a few more times, and they worked. My vision was absolutely perfect. This is amazing, I said out loud without even realizing it. So they work then? The doctor asked questioningly. Yes, they work perfectly. I might even have better than 20/20 vision now, I stammered out. The doctor laughed at this. He ran a few more tests to make sure the lenses were working right, and I passed them all with flying colors. Well, you're free to go. The lenses seem to be working just fine. Just be sure to check back in with me in a couple of days. Oh, and one last thing, he said as he pulled out a few folded pieces of paper stapled together neatly. I am supposed to give you these. They are instructions for the contacts. Anyway, have a good day. Why would I ever need instructions for contacts? I've never needed instructions before. I figured it was probably just notes on the contacts since they were experimental, so I accepted the papers. Once I got back to my car, I quickly stuffed the papers in my center console and went home. My first day with the contacts was incredible. As I had told the doctor, I'm pretty sure my vision surpassed even 20/20 now. Everything was just so much more clear and focused. Colors even stood out more. I was almost hesitant when I removed them to go to sleep that night. I was actually a bit worried that the lenses wouldn't work the next day when I put them in. But, just as before, after a few seconds they worked more than perfect. Most of the day went on as normal, but something kept bugging me. You know that feeling you get when you swear you see something out of the corner of your eye, but when you turn to look, there's nothing there? Well, that feeling persisted for most of the day, but other than that, it was all fine. For the third straight day, I woke up to put in my new miracle contacts. It was Saturday, so I would have the contacts for the rest of the weekend at least. I would report back to the eye doctor on Monday. The nagging feeling I had felt the previous day was even gone. I guess I had just been imagining things, or so I thought. Once again, the day went on like any other day, until I decided to venture out to go get some food. I had gone to my favorite burger joint and gotten some carry-out. I really don't like sitting in restaurants. As I was driving home, I never took my eyes off the road, not even for one quick text. A few blocks from my house, though, I did blink. A simple human action. In the time it took for that single blink to occur, there was now a man standing in the road. I slammed on my brakes, sending my food flying from the passenger seat. The hood of my car was only inches from the man upon complete stop. I was about to jump out of my car to ask the man what the hell he was doing, but that was before I got a better look. I'm not sure I could call this thing a man. It was incredibly tall, at least 7 or 8 feet, but it was scrunched over like Gollum. It was also extremely slender, as if it were malnourished. Its skin was incredibly pale, almost completely white. Its head was to the side. As it was turning to look at me, I blinked once more, and it was gone. Of course, there was no one else around to tell me if there was actually something there, or if I was just insane. So I drove home to enjoy the rest of my meal that wasn't splattered on my dashboard. I took the contacts out and went to bed early that night. Even though it was Saturday, I figured I must just be sleep deprived. It would just be better for me to rest. I almost skipped putting in the contacts the next morning in favor for an old pair of glasses, but the allure of the contacts was too much. It was Sunday, so of course that meant lazing around, flipping between football games. After a few hours of doing essentially nothing, I let out a yawn, closing my eyes in the process. When I opened my eyes, there was another figure in front of me. This one was short, probably about 4 feet tall. It, too, was hunched over, with the same slender and pale body. Its back was to me, so once again I couldn't see a face. I almost immediately closed my eyes in fear. When I gathered the courage to look again, just like before, the figure was gone. I wasn't certain this was the solution at the time, but I sprinted to the bathroom anyway and removed the contacts. That's when I remembered the instructions. After removing the contacts, I stormed out to my car and retrieved the instructions I had ignored before. Those instructions read out a few guidelines that I was meant to follow. Here is what it read. 1. If you begin to see figures, simply ignore them and blink once. They should disappear. 2. If a figure appears in front of you, do not look at its face. 3. Under no circumstances should you wear the contact lenses for more than 24 hours at a time. Should you break any of these guidelines, New Life Vision bears no responsibility for any trauma you may suffer, as outlined in the waiver you signed beforehand. That was essentially the important parts of the paper. If I had read this before, I would have never even worn the contacts. I immediately threw them away. There's something I haven't yet told you though. I left out part of my story, mostly because I don't want to relive it again, but I think it serves as an important warning. You see, when I went to remove the contacts, I saw another figure. It was standing behind me when I looked in the mirror. Its head was right next to mine, and I saw its face. I won't describe what I saw, but just know it still haunts me to this day. These are more than just contact lenses. They will correct your vision and help you see better than you ever have before. However, there are some things we aren't meant to see in this world, something our eyes have evolved to block out for our own good. I never wore the contacts for more than 8 hours. I can only imagine what would happen if someone were to ignore the 24 hours guideline. Even now, I haven't worn the contacts in weeks, but sometimes I swear I still see the figures out of the corners of my eyes. I've considered gouging my eyes out, but it wouldn't help. When I close my eyes, they are still there. Please take my advice. If your eye doctor offers you to try out some new contact lenses from New Life Vision, just say no. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to the incredible authors that allow me to narrate their stories. This author's links will be in the description. Feel free to send me your own scary story at the email on the screen. And until next time, sleep tight.